to bear arms is important for every American. I think I first purchased my first illegal gun on the street when I probably was 18. That was my first illegal purchase on the street because I bought it from somebody. Because everybody at that age, I think it was more so to buy one for safety. Legally, I first bought a gun. I want to say I was about 24 when I think I purchased my first actually walking into a store, knowing what I know, and purchasing a gun.
I grew up around it. Um, in the South, like I used to always go to the South and visit my grandparents and stuff, and it was always a rifle in the corner, a gun somewhere, and you knew not to touch it, you knew not to get near it. But it really, really started the self-defense part was when my best friend got killed, and he got shot with more rounds than you can have in your magazine in Maryland. So at that point, I was like, police didn't do anything. Nobody else could save him. Nobody had a firearm in the house. So you gotta learn how to protect yourself, and in a whole lot of other situations, life. But that was probably the main one.
So I shot a gun for the first time when I was like 15, 16 years old. Uh, One of my friends fucking was like, bruh, you know what I'm saying? You wanna see some shit? We grew up, like, let me put this out there. We grew up in like the early 90s. So like 95, I was already like about 9, 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I saw my first handgun, I was probably about like 9, 10 years old. Niggas was like, hey, you ever hold one before? I was like, nigga, no. So fucking step out there and see what it's like. My man put that joint smack in my hand. Fucking, mind you, I'm not upping it. I'm not, praising it or nothing like that. But this is what happened. The fuck. We was young with the shits.
Coming from the streets, you always think, well, you always taught that you need a gun to protect yourself. So I think I first purchased that gun because I felt like I wanted to be protected. Protected from what? I can't really say, but that was just the formality which it came up. You know what I mean?
How old was I when I first shot a guy? 9, 10, little 22, maybe 8. Scary at first, from what I remember. But after you get used to it, it's like, having fun, like doing any other thing you do every day. So
I was about to have my first son, and I wanted to try to do things legally. So I started to go the legal route. I bought my first house, so I figured, at that time, I think I became more of wanted to be legal with it. So I started to do things legally, not illegally.
Protecting your house is very important to me. Now I understand where people would be like, "Oh, you get you a little gun, you take it on the streets." That's not really what I'm reaching for. I'm reaching for, yo, you get you a legal piece, you keep it for house protection. You know what I'm saying? That's right. The house in the amendments, when it say you could be a Minuteman, you could hold your arms. The first soldiers that was in the Revolutionary War was people literally grabbed from home that had a hunting rifle. It's not like, oh, you was military or this and that. No, nigga, you used to go shoot some deer. So you a crack shot, come shoot for us. Same thing. Look, this is for the house. But if it's necessary, come on with it.
and I'd rather have a chance to protect myself than depend on law enforcement, depend on a phone call, cameras. I want to be my own protector. But the first gun control laws were enacted for Black and Native Americans back in the day because, one, they didn't want anybody protecting themselves. That was the power. That was your rod of iron back then, especially with slavery. You would have, 3-to-1 ratio at a plantation of white people versus Black people, and it was only a couple instances where black people actually rose up and grabbed weapons and, fought back because they were trained in their mindset. Don't even look at that gun. Don't you think about touching that gun, Man, I think Nat Turner and a couple other people that actually rose up and fought, and you see what they did to them. Yeah, they made examples out of them. They turned them into lampshades and, stuff like that. So I'd say it was ingrained for black people not to have firearms, not to defend yourself, and everybody that does have one is scary or bad or, just go call the police.
I think America right now there's a lot of scared people in it. I think that I don't want to say that people do get it because we're brought into that culture of we needed to protect ourselves, but also I think more so, like with my situation, it's everyday life for me. I don't leave home without it. I don't go to the bathroom without it. You'll never not catch it on me.
Because if you think about it, we was the largest demographic to not have paperwork behind our firearms. We was the largest demographic to have illegal firearms. So the fact that our people is doing different, I'm a part of it.
Well, back then, as far as NRA versus the Black Panthers and how they were bumping heads because of what they thought was a right and what they thought wasn't it. You see, back then, white people already had the right to carry wherever they wanted and, do whatever they wanted with their firearms, whether that be hunting or self-defense or whatever the case may be. And when black people like Black Panthers wanted to rise up and defend themselves with firearms, which is scary to them when they exercised their right, which they had to go inside of the California State House with their firearms, they exercised that right. No, a lot of white people did not like that. They did not like that. And it didn't change until, later on where everybody's mindsets changed. But back then they did not like black people carrying and exercising their rights like they did.
Very fearful of in a situation of owning a firearm, whether I could be mistaken of being one of, how should I say this? Being one of, should I say being black? Or being black, that it could actually be a situation of where the cop or person on the other end don't respect it because I have the right to bear arms, and I could be looked at as a situation of being a threat to them. I try my best while I'm moving on the street or doing anything to identify myself, or in a situation let a cop know that I do have a firearm. I have a lot of police officer friends, but towards that, you're definitely viewed differently depending on what area you're in or how you carry yourself. But I do think that in certain situations, it is a a part of where certain police officers do view black Americans differently. When a police officer goes to the police academy, is he being taught to go home, and what videos he being showed that says, okay, what situation should you kill a black man, that we're having most of these killings? But not to get off task, I just try my best to, in situations, let the officer know that I'm not a threat, I'm not going to be a problem if I do have to announce that I have a firearm, and to actually keep myself in a position, on my hands in a position of where he could see that I'm not a threat. Now, would that prevent me from being shot from what we're seeing on the news? Probably not, because there is a lot of black men that got gunned down, with their firearm on them. But, I just try to make sure that I obey all commands and stay in a position of where the officers see that I'm hopefully not a threat.
Another thing is a lot of people that aren't pro-police or aren't, fans of police are also anti-gun. That's just very, very backwards to me. I don't get the gist of it. If you're gonna not worry about the police, then be your own police. Protect yourself, protect your family, protect your neighborhood, I wouldn't want to have to worry about the police myself, but I know my neighborhood, we're good, Most of the people in my neighborhood had a gun on there, so even if something bad were to happen, we didn't have to call the police if something were to happen, you know. Whatever the case may be, if somebody's in your house, like I said, you call the police and they'll be here, and however time they take their time getting there, or whatever part of the county they're not close to you at. So be your own police, protect yourself, you know.
I think there's a lot of people that are walking out here carrying guns that are more so ready to try to prove a point or ready to get into a confrontation or be in a situation. Like I said, owning a gun comes with a responsibility. So you don't pull it unless you're going to use it. You're not pulling it because we had a disagreement. I'm pulling it if I got to protect my family or my life is in danger.
When I was 8 years old, I seen one of my older good friends. You know what I'm saying? One of the hood homies get slain over a basketball foul because Buddy got mad in his feelings because they called a hard foul. He's like, "Oh, I'll be right back." We all laughed at Buddy until he came back and fucking let that shit go. I see my man Big Al crumple. Like, he older than me by like 4 or 5 years. And I was like 9. So he probably like 14. You know what I'm saying? To see his big ass like drop like that, hell no. That shit shook. That shit shook me. To the point where it's like, nah, like you'll never, if it's in my power, you'll never catch me like that. Fuck no. To this day even, which is why I done put in the paperwork for that shit.
I was a victim of gun violence where I got shot 6 times in the city. I got grazed another 3 times. There were 2 streets that didn't agree with each other. You know, you would hear stories about retaliation or streets not getting along with other streets, but then you didn't think it would hit at the gas station which I was running in at that time. Glad to still be here telling the story because it was actually 4 people that got shot when the actual one person actually died. One person got shot in the leg, one person got shot in the head. And like I said, I got shot 5, 6 times and grazed another 3. So yeah.
Ever since my best friend was killed, I always tried to go about the legal way of doing it. I felt as though if I did have to protect myself, I would want to do it legally. That way I didn't get locked up forever, you know. So I had to learn the ins and outs of the laws and all that. And once I did that, of course, your friends are going to want to learn, you know. They're like, oh, well, how did you get that? And what do I have to do that? And, you know, you have to teach them. Like, all right, look, you have to do this, this, and that, you know. You have to fill out this paperwork. You have to know these laws, you know where you can't carry. And it kind of branches out. And once people start asking about it and they actually want to learn, you know, how to shoot or how to get this license or how to get this weapon, you know, it kind of just blooms out and it keeps going. So.
And I think the Second Amendment is important. I think people should have the right to bear arms. The question is, who is bearing arms and what are they bearing arms for? So I think that's important. To me, that right to me and most of my colleagues is that Second Amendment to us, we take that very seriously.
If you get a gun, you gotta know what the responsibilities come with it. If you take that shit out there, you get busy with it, be ready for that to come back. Because it's gonna come back the legal way, as it should. But make sure you do it right. Stand your ground. Make sure it's in defense only. Don't never go off on offense. Don't never move out of madness or drunkenness or... Bruh, if you think you might get too drunk, don't get a gun. If you think you might get too high, don't get a gun. If you think you might get too, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you... The question in itself is, all right, there it is, don't get a gun.
And the reason why I don't think America would be safer if every black person went to go get a gun is because of 2 things. One, in order to actually have a concealed carry permit, it comes with a lot of responsibility. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's easy, but the reason why I think that is because if you're not gonna go practice, if you're not gonna be safe with it, if you're not gonna follow the rules, if you're not gonna know when you're traveling how to transport, no, it doesn't make sense for you to have a gun. I think if you're gonna have a gun, it's just like anything. If you're gonna work out, You want to lose weight, you got to go train, you got to go work out. But to have a gun is still a lot of work with it. You still got to go practice, you still got to go shoot, you still got to learn how to load, you still got to keep it in a safe place, you got to keep it away from your kids, you got to be conscious of it. And you just got to know, just the responsibility that comes with it. I think a lot of people think just by having a concealed carry, they'll feel protected, but it doesn't make sense if you're walking down the road and you have to use it and you don't know how to use it and you kill somebody. So it's definitely a lot of responsibility with it, and I don't think everybody should be able to have a gun.
A gun is not for a person that teeters on alcoholism or drug addiction or some shit like that. That's, nah, nigga, you do not need a fucking gun. You'll fucking get yourself in trouble. A gun is for a person that's responsible and wants to fucking protect some shit. Hey, I got kids. Hey, I got some shit I need to protect. This is my house. This is my whatever. Yeah, nigga. And you know the fucking situation that you are around? The fucking play that you're in? Everybody don't need a gun.
When I seen how everybody else's mindsets were with a lot of things and how it was kind of biased with a lot of stuff as far as the gun culture and how a lot of black people didn't know their rights, especially in Maryland, and how I realized when you're trying to go through the process yourself, how hard it is for you to get it and how much money they make you pay, especially in a low income household where you're just trying to protect your house, they'll make you go do 20-something hour classes when you got to work, so it was a little bit of everything besides my best friend being killed and, people not knowing their rights and people not informing people. A lot of people thinking that just because they owned a gun, they knew how to use it, which is not the case at all. So it was a multitude of reasons why not to.
I would stress it. I would almost stress it. Like, I would rather my people get a legal firearm than fucking just getting a fucking throwaway. Like, yeah, the throwaway cool. Like, you get caught up some shit, whatever. But, bruh, get your legal shit, stand your ground. Like, bruh, know your rights. You know what I'm saying? Do it the right way. I done played around in that. It's a gray area. You know what I'm saying? It's a whole gray area that you can get yourself mixed up in. And I won't want that shit on nobody.
I think I'll fall on the spectrum of where I'm glad to have gun laws. I mean, I've been in situations and I've had, things that happen to me of where I'm glad I'm able to actually carry a gun and feel a little safer. Now, does that mean that in certain situations where would that make me safe? I'm not saying that, but I think that it's important to have the actual gun laws in America right now, so at least people that do feel unsafe are able to protect their home, their family, their loved ones, and everything else, in my opinion.